Welcome back to Yanks Abroad. We have a shorter episode. We are going to do a quick roundup of everything you may have missed and our biggest takeaways from match week number one. First set of matches, is that what it's called? Not match week
Yeah,
number
I've been
one.
calling it match day one, but I don't.
Match day, even though it's over an entire week.
Right,
Yeah. So our biggest takeaways from this first set of group stage matches. Will, what's takeaway number one?
Takeaway number one is obvious, and England shouldn't be the headline for every single thing in the Euros, but I think they just have to because they were the favorite going in. And although they got a victory, it's clear that this lineup, this formation, these tactics, everything under Southgate that we've been saying for a while continues to be an issue, which is he cannot figure out who his best 11 is. And yes, it's the issue of you want to get Foden on the pitch. You want to get Palmer on the pitch, who didn't even play a minute. You want to get Bellingham. You want to get Trent on the pitch. Saka obviously needs to be on the pitch. How do you get all these guys on the pitch? But the issue is he is not able to do it while also have the team playing a free-flowing, attacking style of football when they should be dominating not only possession, but should be dominating, creating chances, having tons of shots on target, and they just are not able to do that with this current situation. And as I've been saying for 6 months, maybe longer, no matter what Marcus Rashford is doing for club, he has to be involved for country. They need an outlet on the left wing. You said it yourself when we were texting about it. Foden is not at his best on that left side. He was trying to get involved, trying to get into those middle pockets where he is so effective for City. He didn't do a great job of it in the first 20 minutes. He then found himself isolated on the wing. Harry Kane couldn't get himself involved. Without Saka, Bellingham, and Trent in that match, I just don't see how England even would have gotten a goal. And it's just sad to see because I feel like this is what we saw with the golden generation of England when they tried to play everybody out of position in the mid-2000s when they had all those great midfielders. And we're seeing a similar thing here. And as much as I am not an England fan, you still want to see the best from the best teams at the tournament. That's what makes it fun. And England needs to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to unpack on this as a whole. I mean, first to your Rashford point, that's why you bring Anthony Gordon. In theory, he gives a similar, I don't think he's as clinical in his finishing and deadly as a Rashford can be when he's on form, but a similar dynamic out on that left side. So it begs the question, is he the answer at left wing? And then I saw something interesting on Twitter. I may not get the stats entirely correct, but Cesc Fabregas was coming off his best season, I believe, at Arsenal and didn't start for the Spain side because they were talking about you just can't
too many midfielders
fit. You just can't fit. It's not about getting. And I may have been wrong. In my head, I was thinking get your best players on the pitch and they'll figure it out. And that could very well be wrong. I think it could be true with a different manager. I think when it comes to Southgate and how fixed his team plays, I think you need to play because it doesn't let Foden thrive in the way that he should. And in his system, you need more people who fit their exact positioning and the more fixed tactics that he has. So my question to you, number one, is what do you think the fix is? What's your starting lineup for game number two?
I don't know. As much as I agree, Anthony Gordon is supposed to replicate that asset, that outlet, that concept at left wing, but you're talking about a completely inexperienced player for England in major tournaments, a player who was great at times this season, but has really never found true consistency at any level at the professional game, at any club he's been at, even at Everton before he made the move to Newcastle. It wasn't like he did this over a long period of time. I mean, correct. I don't know. I don't think the answer is throwing Anthony Gordon into the starting 11.
No, I agree.
Sadly, the craziest part about it is I think actually the best way to fix the dynamic is play Saka at left wing, and I don't think that'll happen. I don't think they should do that. But your best option...
Do you think he can?
Yeah, I mean, Saka was great at left wing before he made the move to right wing. Saka is the most versatile player potentially in this entire side. He could play... I mean, we've seen him. He could play left back for this team and be the best left back that they have on the roster.
Saying that with Jude in the side where he can literally play 8, 10, and 9... at an extremely, extremely high level, I think is I'm not knocking Saka's versatility, but him being more versatile than Jude Bellingham, I think is a big call.
I disagree. As much as Bellingham, I think, is probably still the better player, Saka could step in and play next to Rice in that pivot. He is that good. He is that versatile.
Oh, my God.
He is that versatile. He can receive the ball in pockets of space like that.
Saka is not playing the 8 next to Declan Rice.
He would do it just as well as Trent did. He would do it just as well as Trent
a big disagreement we've had is how well we think. I thought Trent was one of the worst players on the pitch for them. Yes, he was.
Yeah, but you also thought Harry Kane wasn't bad, so...
No, that's not what I said. I did well. Okay, he wasn't good, but he wasn't bad. He was just super uninvolved, and that was a result of the team. A
But here,
number nine,
before we move on from Harry Kane,
a number nine, and similarly to goalkeeper, they can be amazing, but they're also a big product of what if they're not defending and they get open
isn't
shots.
the
A
whole
goalie
Harry
can't
Kane
do
thing
much.
is even when he's not scoring,
that
he's the greatest all-around number 9, that he drops deep, that he creates.
100%.
He didn't do any of that in this match. He did none of it.
Which then goes back to the fact of this fixed system with Southgate. I think regardless of him being captain and the leader and the best player on the team, he's being told to push the center backs back, hold that line so that it can make space for Trent and Bellingham and the wide players to pick it up in pockets that wouldn't be available if he was dropping deep. But we see it with Bayern, he did it, with Tottenham, he did it, and it's the same thing that I'm talking about with Southgate's tactics. Everything is too fixed, and there's no creativity. And in a side that has so many class players where it should be, this is where you're supposed to play, and when we need to defend, this is where you need to play. But when we have the ball, go wherever you think is correct and do whatever you need to do. You guys are fucking amazing. Just make something happen. And they don't play like that at all. And I think that's why specifically Foden doesn't work in this side. I think Bellingham should move to the 8 and Foden should play the 10. And when they barely even dominated the game.
And they did
Serbia,
it.
Yeah, Serbia
almost
had more
equal possession, I think, by the end of the match, right?
You saw Bellingham's work rate throughout. Like, he can play. He won the ball back just as much as he won the ball back way more than Trent.
But you're
like
to limit Bellingham to make Foden have more opportunity, I don't think is the right answer. Foden, I agree that Foden is not being played in his best position, but he's also never really had a good performance for England in any important match, and he also just was wasteful in this match, and he's been wasteful in the past 6 months. Every time I've watched him play for England, he's been wasteful. He's been bad in the final third. He has not received the ball in the same the amount of comfortability he has in the city side in tight spaces. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's a system player. I'm not going to go that far. I'm not trying to be negative about Phil Foden because as much as you think I'm a Foden hater, I think Foden's spectacular, but I just don't think
the amount of times he's had to preface, I'm not a Foden hater, questions need to be asked.
I would take Foden at any club in the world. I think Foden probably gets a look in almost any club in the world in the starting 11. I'm not saying that he doesn't. I just don't think that it makes sense to limit Bellingham, who's a more important player to this side, to limit Saka, who's a more important player to the side, to get the best out of Phil Foden, when the answer may just be he'll play left wing, he won't be great, and that'll have to to be that. The mistake was not bringing Rashford.
How is that?
Who was the player of the tournament for England at the last Euros?
Who was the player of the tournament? Are you talking about the guy who missed the penalty to lose the tournament?
No. That's not what I'm talking about. Raheem Sterling was the player of the tournament for England at the last Euros. I wasn't
sure where you were going.
Then they came to this tournament without that profile, with any experience. Yes, we can say Anthony Gordon, but seriously, they came to this tournament without that profile who's really an option to start.
Okay, but
and that's just a massive mistake.
If you're bringing him and you need that profile, then you need to try. I mean, in a group where Serbia, for me, going into it, I thought was their toughest competition. With the other two, it's now or never to try different things. I mean, they're probably going to get a pretty easy round of 16 matchup, but then you play the quarterfinal against a Belgium or an Italy, and then you have the semifinal against France. Like, you got to figure it out by the end of this group stage, or it could be way too little, way too late.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see if he plays with the starting 11 at all in this next match, but I don't know. I mean, I don't see a world in which you watch that match, and I agree there's a lot to not like about Trent in midfield, the same way there's a lot to not like about Trent at right back. That's just the player that he is. I just think a team that's lacking creativity to take potentially the most creative player in the entire side who can unlock an entire defense with one pass out of the side is not the answer. But if you're
telling me a three behind the striker of Foden, Saka, and Bellingham isn't creative enough, like, that is a because it is, so that has to be a managerial issue that you need Trent to also make them creative enough to be impactful. My question is, first off, I think the biggest problem is the left side without Luke Shaw.
The left-hand dynamics are terrible.
Trippier provides absolutely nothing in open play attack. He's great on the ball, obviously. He's great on set pieces, obviously, but like, not having a natural left footer is one thing. And then two, Trippier, who can't even create from that left side, regardless right or left foot, makes it extremely difficult for anyone down that left side. So I think Luke Shaw at left back. I think he's going to come back within the next couple matches, will be huge for them. And I think we'll see a big change in Foden's overall performance. But my question is, would it be insane to play Eze off that left side? He kind of played there once they made the change at manager for Palace, and he was unreal.
No, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I mean, he's not the same kind of outlet that a Rashford is, but I think he offers probably more than Foden does off that left side.
Off the left side, I agree.
I mean, and I don't want to sound absolutely insane, and you can tell me if I do, but just based off the fact that Southgate went Bowen over Palmer at right wing, to me, play Saka 70 minutes and then bring Foden on at right wing for the last 20 minutes. Like, and play someone else at left wing. Just try it for a match. He's not.
I mean, Bowen was good when he came on. You know how I feel about.
Yeah, I thought Bowen was great, by the way, when he came on. I thought he was really, really good. I think Bowen could play off the left wing. He's an outlet type of player as well. I don't know. I would
Bowen's
just try
fantastic.
anyone but Foden at left wing. I would give it a chance in this next group stage match. I just don't think they're getting what they need out of Foden in that position.
For me, I think there's a lot of attention on him because he's player of the year and he's never performed in that. But I think the problems, I think if I were to list out the issues, it's number 1, left back, number 2, Trent in the midfield, and number 3, Foden, that left side.
My thing is Foden is never held up to the standards of any of the other great players in the world. And to me, that speaks volumes about really the talent that he is versus the other players who, anytime they are not going out and scoring a goal in a key match, they're considered.
I'm the only one that's coming to us. All I saw on Twitter is Foden ghosting, and that he was awful. I haven't seen anyone else come to his support. I think he's held it just high.
City fans who are taking the picture of the FOT mob thing.
Of course, City fans. I mean, we have Arsenal fans glazing Saka over a deflected assist.
Okay, but that was not even nearly his best action of the whole match. I mean, you're not going to sit here and not tell me Saka wasn't the first or second best player on the pitch in that match.
He was great. He wasn't my first or second, but he was great. I thought Bellingham won, Gahey 2, and then probably
Gahey
Saka
was
3.
very, very good. Stones, by the way, looked as bad as I've seen him play in over a year. Yeah, which was shocking.
And also, Walker didn't look good either.
No, that whole right side of the defense didn't look good, but I think that had a lot to do with
it was just
Trent
a really underwhelming
side as well.
It was just a really underwhelming performance.
Pickford, by the way, who's great with his feet, was completely wasteful with the ball countless times, and it really was one of the main reasons England couldn't control the second half of that match.
Yeah. I'm very, very interested to revisit this after the second match, because with 2 matches of sample size, although sound small, in a tournament like this, you will find a lot of answers after we've have another 90 minutes to look at.
For sure.
But that leads me to takeaway number 2 is more a question than a takeaway, but did Vegas, did the fans, did the pundits get the favorites of this tournament completely wrong? You look at France, who had an extremely underwhelming 1-0 win. You had England, who had an extremely underwhelming 1-0 win. And then you look at the 3 next favorites. Spain beats Croatia 3-0. Germany wipes Scotland. I think it was 5-1 was the final.
Yep.
And then we're recording this before Portugal, but Portugal is that 3rd favorite in that grouping with Spain and Germany. And it's like, are the favorites still the favorites after match week 1, or have you changed your mind? You came in with the fact that Spain should be the favorite, so I'll give you credit there. But do you think if you had to reorder those 5, what would you put it at?
Well, I'll say this to begin with. I always thought England's just overrated because of the amount of talent on the team and not. That's the thing I think about these national tournaments is like it's about them. They kind of rate the squads based on the amount of talent in the squad, I think, a lot of the time, and not based off of the way the teams actually play, because I don't really think they can do it that way. Obviously, same when they do it in any sport. And I think it's just really hard in international football. It's the reason we see upsets like Romania destroying Ukraine. Like, just because Ukraine has all these players that people know versus Romania, nobody knows any of the players, doesn't actually mean they're a better team than the other team.
Agreed.
I mean, I think going in, we had a pretty serious conversation about whether or not Portugal should be considered the favorites. Again, you said we're recording this before Portugal. I think this can be an easy win against Czech Republic by the time people are listening to this. But just based off of qualifiers, they had the most goals scored. They had the fewest goals conceded. They have the deepest squad in terms of attacking and midfield talent, probably of anyone, including France and England. So I think Portugal probably will be the favorites after this, especially considering Mbappe is at least missing the group stage games. It's been announced, and potentially going to have trouble breathing. I don't know. France didn't look good. Also, bizarre lineup from Deschamps. I don't know if we're going to talk too much about it, but
I mean, it's important to touch on because that goes into it. Like everyone had an idea of what the lineup would be. I think I touched on the fact that I think Rabiot is always amazing for this French side, so that didn't shock me. And then the Conte thing shocked me. He ended up being
He
man
was
of the
pretty
match,
good. Yeah.
as he does. But not
First
playing
20 minutes, he wasn't great, but he was great in the final 70.
It just seems like not playing Chouameni, who is...
Well, he's injured. He's a stress fracture in his foot.
He's still injured, right?
Yeah.
The Champions League, I did the same thing.
He should be back for one of the next 2 group stage matches, if not for the knockouts. But to me, the craziest part was playing Thuram. That front
over
three,
Giroud.
That front three didn't make sense to me. It limits Mbappe.
How do you not... Giroud, I feel like, still had a pretty solid season for AC Milan. And
he's just great,
a top goal scorer. And I think what he provides is he is such a... He takes the center back. He occupies the center back so well with how big he is. I think Havertz, I talked about this after the Germany match on my personal TikTok. I thought Havertz did a brilliant job of just occupying the center backs and then letting Wirtz and Musiala run off him. He laid it off to him well. I think Giroud does that perfectly. We found in the Champions League semifinal against Dortmund, the problem is all the attention was around Mbappe. They tried in leg 2 to bring in Gonzalo Ramos to free him up on that left side. It didn't work. But Giroud is that perfect player to occupy the center backs because he's such a threat constantly that Mbappe can get isolated on that right back. And playing Thuram, who isn't the same profile as Mbappe, but more similar to an Mbappe than a Giroud, the way he occupies defenders, I thought that was a complete miss.
For sure. And also, you have Theo Hernandez on that left wing who can take up so much of the touchline space.
Right.
So if you allow Mbappe to play off of Giroud, even he can play a little bit more central. You don't need to, like, a lot of people get worried that if Mbappe's playing on the wing, he gets stuck way out wide. But in this team specifically, and also with PSG when Mendes is healthy, he doesn't have that issue. I mean, Theo Hernandez was insane in the first 45 minutes of this match. I mean, he created so much. He was galloping forward. He was getting into acres of space. France really should have taken a lot more advantage of that. I thought Dembele was incredibly wasteful on the ball many times that he got fed.
As he tends to be.
I thought Thuram was the same way. Obviously, Mbappe missed that big chance, but that was really the only other chance Mbappe had the entire match, other than creating the goal, of course, off of the cross. But yeah, I mean, I think France they find a way just because they have so much depth. I thought defensively they were very, very sound for most of the match. And Conte sitting in front of that defense just makes them even better. Saliba was not his best, but he doesn't play that position.
Almost got exposed.
He did almost get exposed. I think he's just uncomfortable tackling with his left foot. I mean, he hasn't played there since he didn't even play there on either of his loan spells back in France. He hasn't played there since he was like 17 at Saint Etienne. So I think, to me, that's bizarre that you would take your best defender and play him out of position. But Deschamps even playing Saliba is surprising. So there's that.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, after those, once again, you're in a tournament style. They both got 3 points. Yeah. What 1 out of 10 your worry level for England, and 1 out of 10 your worry level for France?
I started at a 5 worried for England. I'm up to a 7 worried for England.
Okay.
And France, if assuming Mbappe's back for the knockout rounds, I'm not worried about France. I think I didn't really quite realize this going into the tournament, but Austria are actually in some pretty insane form.
No, I was
as a national team.
I meant to preface it with with that England point, as they still got 3 points. Like, I think Austria is an extremely tough side to break down, and the fact that you get a win, no matter how it happens, I think is obviously important.
Of course.
But then moving to the other teams, you've already made your stance clear on Spain. Did you think Germany's performance told you more about Germany, or told you more about Scotland, or a little bit of both?
It told me everything I already knew about Scotland, which I think you vastly overrated them. They are not a good side. They have not been a good side for our entire lifetime. They don't have any dynamics that make any sense. They've got a lot of wingbacks and fullbacks playing center back. It's just a side that's a lot of hodgepodge of trying to get the best players out there, and they really struggle from that without any attacking prowess. And
I mean,
obviously it was a ruckus atmosphere, but
Shea Adams spent more time marking Toni Kroos than he did playing his actual position, but it was way too little, way too late. The amount of space that they were giving him, and it's almost a crime that he's retiring.
It honestly, I kind of respect it because you don't really see athletes who
go out on top. You don't see it.
They never do. So it's cool to see them Champions League final and then Euros and then be done.
I want your updated power rankings for the Euros.
Well, I think the actual power rankings are Portugal, France, England. Well, England, Spain, Germany. That's probably the real power rankings. The way I would rank them is Portugal, Spain, France, Germany, England. In terms of my opinion of like what the best squads are moving forward, I still think Spain will win. I think they were incredible. I know they were a little shakier in that second half. Croatia started to create some more opportunities. But again, first match, we've seen a lot of shakiness from a lot of good sides. So that doesn't really worry me. They were creating, they were fluid. Morata's going to win the Golden Boot, as I said. And I'm excited about this Spain team. I've got some good bread laid on them in some different places.
So this might look stupid because we're recording it before the Portugal match, but I would agree. I would go Portugal. I would actually go Germany. I was super high on Germany before the tournament, and it was pretty much we talked about, like, will they figure out how to use Musiala and Wirtz in the best way possible? And I think with Havertz playing that number 9, I think they perfectly have. And then with Kroos and Gundogan, he was picking up all the perfect spaces. So I'm going to go Portugal, Germany, France, England, Spain. Honestly, I thought Spain obviously were great, but I touched on this in our preview. I thought Croatia was going to disappoint at this tournament already, so that 3-0 didn't surprise me. They looked great. They looked probably better than I would have anticipated them looking, but it still isn't super convincing to me because I just wasn't that high on Croatia to begin with. And then once again, I think Lukaku could have scored yesterday, and I feel like I'd be having the same thoughts of like Lukaku's going to choke it for Belgium the way Morata's going to choke it for Spain, and that's why I can't trust Spain to get it done. Lukaku went an extra mile by choking just in game 1. And then how about, as we're on them, those are our power rankings. Quickly touch on Belgium before we move to takeaway number 3.
I mean, it's tough when one of your center backs is playing against you, and that's what Wesley Fes was doing for Belgium. I mean, that was one of the worst center back performances at any level of any team, at any tournament, international, club football, MLS, whatever you want to say. That was truly one of the worst performances I've seen. Also, the Courtois not being called up is looking sillier and sillier.
Insane. Actually insane. And by the way, I don't even think they're starting their best goalkeeper.
No, they should be playing Sells. Sells had a really good second half of the year. Really
good. Yeah. By the way, I'm not going to say 100% on him, but like if that's Courtois in goal, I'm saying 100% that goal doesn't happen. And if that Sells, I would say 70 to 75% that goal doesn't happen. Like I just don't know how you mess that up.
For sure. And I don't know. I think Doku does a lot of really cool things that look good in comps, but I'm still not convinced by him as a footballer in terms of
he looked really good. You know who I'm a big fan of?
All over it.
Yeah, Trossard was actually extremely wasteful, which was disappointing for someone who's such a big
Trossard, and I think you forget that like 70% of the matches he's like that, and
he's
every
always
match he doesn't score in, it's like
it looks like that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's fair.
I mean, he's an incredible finisher, and he adds something that I think the team needs. I'd like to see Openda play though. He was really nice once he came on. I thought he was great. I'm
saying, I mean, Lukaku. There's something to be said about someone always being in the right positions, and he does that. And like, you think it's gonna come off, but like, he might be the most frustrating player to watch and or bet on if you happen to have bet him anytime goal scorer.
Yeah, that was nuts. All right. Third takeaway, and this is one that if you follow me on Twitter, I probably tweeted this every single day, but ball striking is king at this tournament. It feels like prime Barclays. Like this is like the footy that I grew up with. Guys just spanking the ball from outside of the box, knuckles, curlers, low driven shots, the ones that bounce before they go in, which make it so hard for the keeper to get their hands to. It's just been so much fun. And like, I honestly hope club managers are watching this tournament and being like, okay, the long shot is a lost art in the sport. You can score so many goals. As we're sitting here right now, 32% of the goals in this tournament already have been scored from outside of the box. 9 goals from outside of the box already in this tournament. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Arda Güler's goal was of another world.
Disgusting.
Romania scored 2 fantastic ones. Stanchu's specifically was very good. Lunin probably should have got to the second one from outside the box. But there have been countless goals. Sesko almost scored 2 unbelievable goals from outside the box.
He almost broke the post.
His ball striking is, to me, like I really think he's Zlatan 2.0 with his ball striking, his agility.
So how do you feel about him turning down Arsenal?
From what I was told, that was never really very close, and agent was using all of that to just get him a better new contract and to get him an understanding of Leipzig that basically is, even though there won't be a release clause in the new contract, they've agreed upon a certain price next season that they will let him walk at.
Yeah.
That's basically what I was told the whole time. So I was not surprised at all that we
Okay.
didn't get him. But I think he's great. I mean, I think, not to derail this conversation, but I think the issue was Arsenal were not ready to say to him, you are going to be the number one
You're the
striker next
starter.
year.
Yeah.
So that was always going to be the holdup. But ball striking, man, it's been fun. These Euros, like, anyone can win a match when you're scoring goals the way that goals are getting scored.
Exactly.
And I don't think we can really ask for much else from a fan's perspective. Like, I think there's a lot to love about the beauty of the way Pep and his disciples play the game, which is just constant possession, never wasting a pass, whatever. But to have a little mix up over the summer, especially when you're watching a Georgia Turkey, you have nothing you're really rooting for. You might have a parlay here, you might have a money line bet there, but neither team going to win the tournament. Neither team is the team you have outright. You're not. But just seeing those goals in that Turkey match, I mean, the right back, who I'm not too familiar with, Mulder, I think is his name. I mean, that technique to hit that volley like that was out of this world. I don't know. It feels like I'm watching FIFA, which is like such an American thing to say, obviously. But no, I mean, it was fun.
It seems like some Premier League clubs who are further down the table could take, like, you don't have to emulate what you're seeing happen in the league at the top clubs. Like, take some chances. Like, the days of having, I've been seeing it all over Twitter because of Hungary's number 9, and it's like we have the old football back where there's just these target men number 9 and like long shots and like just hoofing crosses into the box. I think it's been a ton of fun. My only thing is, are you enjoying it, or are you trying to push like you don't really need to create XG, just like shoot the ball narrative?
No, I'm wondering if coaches are going to say, like, all right, maybe we're over-analyzing the XG, because recently, and a lot with the golf tournament this weekend, I think that analytics in sport, as great as they are, way too often overlook mentality. And so you can't strictly look at analytics. And so to me, like, what is the way that a team gets, extra energy from a goal being scored from outside of the box? What kind of momentum shift does that do to the other team when a team who's got 27% possession like Romania did against Ukraine, who scores 3 goals, 2 of them from outside of the box? Like, what does that do for the team? It makes you feel like anything's possible. And then it's the same thing as like the NBA, where like once you hit 1-3, then they have to come out on you, and it creates other spaces. So I think that a lot of the analytics of XG, like if Arsenal starts scoring goals from outside the box, teams aren't going to play that low mid block as much, right? And then you have more opportunities to pass the ball to the net. It kind of allows you to just actually do more of what you want to do if you can just switch it up.
That's a great point, because no one is stepping out because you don't feel the threat. But even if they're still going to sit in that low block, but they feel they need to creep a little, and then all of a sudden there's pockets behind the space that there weren't before. Like, I don't think it'll be getting fully in behind, but creating more spaces behind the first and second set of 4 that they're sitting in the block. It's funny being at the Tottenham Arsenal match and just being at all the matches. Any time there's an opening, everyone is screaming shoot. And it's just because, like, as a fan, you kind of want to see that banger live in person, but like, who knows? Like, the fans could be onto something. Pucks on net in hockey is a strategy. Maybe shots on goal are the new strategy from outside the box.
And the other thing I'll say is a lot of these shots from outside the box, not all of them, but I would say of the 9 that have gone in from outside the box, probably 3 or 4 off the top of my head, the goalkeeper should have saved. But people don't realize, like, number one, goalkeepers aren't always expecting a shot. So although the XG might be low, the goalkeeper is not moving until later. There's people in their way. And get the ball on net. You just never know what can happen. And
deflection. I mean, the Slovenia goal that was probably going directly at the goal. It takes a sick deflection, and all of a sudden they're
that
tied
came
up.
Off, by the way, Sesko shooting a ball off the bar that turned into a corner kick. Yep. So it's like, get the ball on net, see what happens, especially in tournament football where all it takes is one moment of magic, March Madness mentality, make it happen. And it's just made the games that are not so interesting more interesting, because the atmosphere gets risen, everything gets risen. And I hope that it wasn't just a match day 1 thing. 9 goals from outside the box going into the Portugal game. I'm loving it.
Yep. All right. That is our 3 takeaways from match day, match week, first set of group matches of the Euros. We will be back on Sunday for a live stream of the opening U.S. men's national team match. You will see a podcast reacting to that after the fact, and then we will see you for our takeaways from match week number 2 of the Euros. We got a ton coming. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Let us know what your biggest takeaway from the first set of matches was, and we will see you guys on Sunday.
Peace.